Egypt's president reaffirms his country's commitment to de-escalation and dialogue on the nuclear file. Israeli warplanes launch heavy airstrikes on Yemen, killing 9 and injuring more than 100. And Palestine's UN representative calls for urgent action to end the genocide in Gaza. You're watching Qnews at 8 with me, Henny Saif, and in the news today, Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has reaffirmed his country's commitment to de-escalation and dialogue on the nuclear file. That came during his call with his Iranian counterpart Masoud Pezeshkian, who thanked Egypt for mediating between Tehran and the International Atomic Energy Agency, leading to a cooperation agreement signed in Cairo on September 9th of 2025. They stressed the need for an immediate Gaza ceasefire, rejected Palestinian displacement, and reaffirmed support for a two-state solution. They also discussed strengthening bilateral relations to advance shared interests and regional stability. Iran and the UN nuclear watchdog have agreed to resume cooperation on nuclear inspections. The Iranian Foreign Minister, Abbas Araghchi, warned that any hostile actions against Iran, including reimposing UN sanctions, would lead Tehran to halt these newly agreed practical steps. The agreement, finalized in Cairo, establishes a mechanism for inspections that respects Iran's security concerns following recent US and Israeli attacks on its nuclear sites. Araghchi emphasized the deal complies with Iranian law requiring approval by its Supreme National Security Council for inspections. IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi called the deal an important step in the right direction and highlighted the need for good faith implementation. IAEA Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi said that a recent agreement with Iran on implementing nuclear safeguards marks an important step in the right direction. Grossi praised Iran's commitment to remain within the Non-Proliferation Treaty and to continue cooperating with the international non-proliferation regime. The deal outlines clear procedures for inspection notifications and reporting on all nuclear facilities in Iran, including those previously attacked. He expressed hope that renewed inspections would signal the potential for lasting dialogue and durable solutions to global nuclear challenges.
The international non-proliferation regime. The agreement on practical modalities for the implementation.
Moving on to Yemen, where the Israeli warplanes have launched heavy airstrikes on Yemen's capital Sana'a, targeting the defense ministry under Houthi control. Houthi media reported 9 dead and more than 100 injured in initial toll from Israeli strikes on Sana'a and Al-Jawf. Houthi spokesman Yahya Sari'a said air defenses engaged Israeli aircraft over the city. Israel's army radio confirmed strikes on Houthi propaganda centers, fuel facilities, and military camps, while Israeli media reported the first targeting of rocket launch sites in Sana'a used against Israel. The attacks also hit Houthi positions northeast of Sana'a and sites in Amran and Al-Jawf provinces. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed that Israel will continue striking Houthi positions in Yemen, stressing that every party attacking Israel will be firmly targeted. He confirmed that recent Israeli operations hit Houthi facilities and military camps, underscoring Tel Aviv's determination to expand its response against hostile actors beyond its immediate borders. Netanyahu framed the strikes as part of Israel's broader strategy to deter threats, safeguard national security, and demonstrate its readiness to act decisively against any group seeking to endanger Israel.
Terrorist celebrated the horrific massacre.
Israeli media has reported that airstrikes in Yemen struck 15 Houthi targets, with more than 10 warplanes participating in the assault on Sana'a. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz declared that Israel had delivered a painful blow to the Houthis. According to the Israeli outlets, the Air Force for the first time targeted 2 rocket launch sites in Sana'a, allegedly used for launching attacks against Israel. The strikes mark a major escalation, highlighting Israel's growing confrontation with the Houthis beyond Gaza and Lebanon. And for more analysis, we now move to Rehem Morsi in our newsroom. Rehem.
Thank you, Henny, to help us analyze this matter. We're joined from Cairo by the Research in Israeli Affairs and Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs member, Dr. Ahmed Fouad Anwar. Thank you, sir, for joining us here on Qnews. Firstly, sir, let's start off by asking, what strategic message is Israel sending by expanding strikes to Yemen, and how significant is the targeting of rocket launch sites in Sana'a?
After welcoming, it's a trial that ended in failure. He said that he can reach far places in Yemen, that there is no good qualities from electricity, water, and services, and this stuff cannot be compared to what occurred when travels are stopped from companies that returned since a very short time. What Israeli does is unaccepted and must be responded upon, and I think that there will be other parties that will consider this.
So, to what extent are these strikes linked to the ongoing Gaza conflict, and does Israel view the Houthis as an immediate military threat or just a symbolic threat to them?
No, it's the Yemenian side is a front, supporting front, and when we reach an agreement in Gaza, it occurs according to ceasefire in different sides, included the Yemenian side, and the Israel. The effect affects the Israeli side that does not believe in Netanyahu's government, specifically when there is a new that he's against the operation that goes in Gaza and that goes in Deir al-Balah and then in Mawasi. And he refuses that because it ended in failure, and he does not accept failure, while Netanyahu would like to make the others not focus with what he does.
Okay, so how might this escalation affect Israel's relation with the Arab and Gulf countries, and what risks does Israel face in opening another front with the Houthis?
For sure, it became very complicated, specifically with what's going in Qatar, that is that the Arab world is against, and there is action taken from the Egyptian side and other Arab countries against what's going on in Qatar and then against the violation of Israel and its strike. All of that expresses their anger against the violation of the international law, and also specifically when there is a violation on Yemen that is ambitions and from the Israel side and from Netanyahu, and all of the Arab world must union together.
Well, if we can focus again on Yemen now, could these strikes provoke deeper Iranian involvement given Tehran's support, especially for the Houthis? And how might the Houthis retaliate against Israel following today's strike?
That Iran will take action. This war cannot continue. Israel cannot continue it for a long time, specifically when there is anger from the other sides. And I think that such action and a violation against many countries will affect Israel. Israel will be condemned for that, and it will causes a great loss to Israel. And it will affect Netanyahu's government in a miserable way.
Okay, that was Dr. Ahmad Fouad Anwar from Cairo, the researcher in Israeli affairs and the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs member. Thank you, sir, for joining us here on Qnews. And now we go back to you, Hani Saif, in our studio.
Thank you, Raham. Moving on, the Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli has condemned Israel's assault on Qatar, calling it a blatant violation of international law and the UN Charter. He warned that such aggression undermines regional de-escalation efforts and jeopardizes prospects for a ceasefire agreement. Madbouli reaffirmed Egypt's solidarity with Qatar in defending its security, sovereignty and territorial integrity. He urged the international community to assume responsibility, halt further acts of aggression and hold those accountable, stressing that unchecked violations only deepen instability and obstruct peace efforts in the region. Qatar's Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani condemned the Israeli attack on Qatari soil, calling it state terrorism, carried out under Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's destabilizing policies. He described the strike as a clear message of recklessness and violation of sovereignty, questioning whether Netanyahu intends to reshape the Gulf region as well. He called the attack a 100% treacherous act, stating it was unexpected and that claims by Netanyahu spreading misinformation are false. Reaffirming Qatar's diplomatic role, he said mediation is central to its identity and that the country remains committed to promoting regional stability despite the attack. Saudi Crown Prince and Prime Minister Mohammed bin Salman has reaffirmed Riyadh's full, unlimited support for Qatar against Israel's recent attacks, pledging to mobilize all capabilities to back Doha. Speaking at the opening of the Shura Council's new session, he condemned the aggression on both Qatar and Gaza, calling for urgent Arab, Islamic and international action. He stressed Palestine's legitimate rights, defended the Arab Peace Initiative as a path to statehood, and reiterated Saudi efforts to secure stability in Syria, Lebanon, Yemen and Sudan. Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem has condemned Israel's attack on Qatar, describing it as part of a broader Greater Israel project. He claimed the strike was carried out with American approval and urged it reflects Israel's intention to forcibly displace Palestinians as a step in advancing its regional ambitions. Qasim insisted the aggression demonstrates the dangerous alignment between Washington and Tel Aviv in reshaping the Middle East. U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed strong unhappiness over Israel's strike on Hamas political leaders in Qatar. While he supports targeting Hamas, Trump criticized the attack's timing and location, saying it was not a good situation and that he was very unhappy about every aspect. He stressed the urgent need to secure the release of detainees.
I don't have to do that. I'm not thrilled about the whole situation. It's not a good situation. But I will say this, we want the hostages back.
Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian has condemned Israel's airstrike against Hamas leaders in Doha, calling it a terrorist act that shows Israel's disregard for boundaries and diplomacy. He warned that the world's indifference could worsen the crisis and conflict in the region. Pezeshkian urged international bodies like the United Nations and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation to respond firmly and swiftly. He emphasized that lasting peace requires an end to occupation and aggression and reaffirmed Iran's support for opposed nations against unilateral, aggressive policies threatening regional security. China has expressed deep concern over Israel's airstrike in Doha, calling it a serious violation of Qatar's sovereignty and a move that heightens regional tensions. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian linked the incident to the unbalanced stance of certain major powers and urged them to adopt a fair approach, promote ceasefire efforts, and help stabilize the region. Humanitarian aid trucks from Egypt entered Gaza through the Rafah border crossing as part of the ongoing Zed al-Izza convoy, now in its 34th day. The convoy carries food supplies like flour and cheese, supporting relief efforts for Palestinians. The Egyptian Red Crescent has coordinated aid at Rafah since the crisis began. The crossing remains open on Egypt's side, with over 36,000 trucks delivering around 500,000 tons of aid, helped by 35,000 volunteers. Palestine's UN representative Riyad Mansour has called for urgent action to end the genocide in Gaza, accusing Israel of systematic violations of international law. He said Israel's impunity has emboldened it to expand aggression regionally while enforcing a devastating blockade on Gaza. He cited staggering tolls: 64,000 killed, mostly women and children, 162,000 injured, 20,000 children killed, and tens of thousands disabled or malnourished. He demanded the Security Council act under Chapter 7 to enforce a ceasefire and urged global pressure to halt Israeli annexation plans in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem.
A statement attributed to the State Department was just released.
U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee has said the Palestinian Authority's push for unilateral statehood at the UN has stalled hostage negotiations with Hamas and blocked financial talks with Israel. He criticized the PA for continuing payments to terrorist families. fueling Israeli frustration. Despite tensions, Huckabee highlighted ongoing security cooperation between Israel and the PA and reaffirmed U.S. support for Israel's sovereignty. Families carrying their belongings on vehicles, donkey carts and rickshaws continue to leave Gaza City along the coastal road, preparing for a major Israeli military offensive. Israel ordered Gaza City residents to evacuate on Tuesday ahead of intensified attacks threatening a mighty hurricane assault if Hamas does not release the remaining detainees. The city, once home to 1 million Palestinians, has been bracing for weeks as Israel targets what it calls Hamas's last strongholds. Health officials stated that Gaza's two main hospitals, Al-Shifa and Al-Ahli, will not be evacuated, with doctors committed to staying with patients. Most Gazans have been displaced multiple times during the war, with much of the territory destroyed and a worsening hunger crisis deepening in recent months. U.S. President Donald Trump told reporters that he plans to speak with Russian President Vladimir Putin either this week or early next week. Trump, who previously pledged to end the conflict on day one of becoming president, is struggling to broker a peace deal between Moscow and Kiev, and Russia's strikes on Ukraine have intensified. Trump has called on the European Union to hit China and India with tariffs of up to 100% to force Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the war in Ukraine. A Russian overnight attack on the western Ukrainian town of Volchynsk caused damage to a textile factory, residential buildings and a gas station, injuring 3 people. Local authorities released footage showing the destruction, including blown-out windows and damaged vehicles, but no fatalities were reported. Britain's Defence Minister John Healey has announced that UK armed forces will explore ways to bolster NATO's air defence in Poland. Speaking after a meeting with European defence officials, Healey reaffirmed the UK's commitment to support Poland as a NATO ally. Moscow denied involvement, with a Polish diplomat suggesting the drones originated from Ukraine. European leaders view the incident as justification for a collective response, though the US has yet to comment. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius has condemned the recent Russian drone incursion into Polish airspace as unacceptable and a deliberate provocation against NATO and European security. Pistorius said there was no evidence the drone accidentally entered Polish territory, describing the incident as a targeted action. While clarifying that the drone flights did not cause military damage or casualties, he stressed that they violated Poland's sovereignty and international law. Pistorius affirmed Germany's firm support for Poland and NATO's air defense efforts, emphasizing unity and restraint in response to Russian provocations. And in Poland, where the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk confirmed that multiple Russian drones violated Polish airspace overnight, prompting a swift military response. resulted in the downing of several unmanned aircraft. Russian drones were shot down over NATO territory for the first time, highlighting the seriousness of the incident. Although there were no reported casualties, Polish Prime Minister Tusk described the event as a likely large-scale provocation. Poland remains in close coordination with NATO allies to prepare an appropriate response. Airports across the country were temporarily closed as a precaution to ensure pilot safety, rather than due to direct strikes. Polish authorities stated they are prepared to respond to future provocations or attacks as regional tensions continue to rise. The Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk warned that Poland is facing its most serious security threat since World War II, after Russian drones violated its airspace. 3 drones were confirmed shot down, with a 4th likely following 19 airspace incursions overnight. Tusk told the Parliament the incident crossed a line and was incomparably more dangerous than previous provocations. He emphasized that while there's no immediate risk of war, the situation marks a significant escalation. Poland has formally requested NATO consultations under Article 4 of the Alliance's treaty, citing the threat to its security. Police used tear gas and water cannons to disperse protesters in Montpellier as Block Everything demonstrations spread nationwide. Tens of thousands of security forces quickly removed blockades, preventing major disruption despite some clashes. The protests expressed widespread anger at President Emmanuel Macron, the political elite, and planned budget cuts, drawing comparisons to the 2018 Yellow Vest movement. Nearly 300 protesters were arrested across France. Sébastien Lecornu was officially sworn in as France's new Prime Minister, becoming President Emmanuel Macron's 5th appointee to the role in under 2 years. Lecornu stressed the need to end the double disconnect between politics and public expectations. Facing mass Block Everything protests and political upheaval, Lecornu signaled a shift in both tone and policy, stating the government must be more creative, more technical, and more collaborative with opposition. His predecessor, François Bayrou, ousted just 2 days earlier by a tense National Assembly vote, called for a realistic reconstruction of France rooted in current challenges.
Ça va falloir aussi changer.
Over 100 cyclists from 18 teams competed in the Tour of Binzhu in East China's Shandong province, part of the 2025 UCI Asia Tour. The race remained tight until the final stages, when Swiss rider Simon Pelot broke away, finishing first in 3 hours, 13 minutes and 39 seconds. He was followed by Japan's Yukiya Arashiro and Australia's Samuel Jenner. Pelot, 33, called it one of the best wins of his career, highlighting his solo attack in the last kilometre. These are all the news we have for now, but here's a reminder of today's main stories. Egypt's president reaffirms his country's commitment to de-escalation and dialogue on the nuclear file. Israeli warplanes launch heavy airstrikes on Yemen, killing 9 and injuring more than 100. And Palestine's UN representative calls for urgent action to end the genocide in Gaza. This concludes our news bulletin and transmission for today, but please don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at Q News EGY to stay informed. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.